Get Mark Fawson. He kind of has the NASA voice. We could get Mark to come do the countdown for us. Is he on the call by any chance? Probably not. Okay, it's officially 2:35. NASA voice or not, we're gonna get started and jump right in. I appreciate all 60-ish of us getting together today to talk through the things we want to keep. Now, COVID has been a lot of things and a lot of things we don't want to keep. But I imagine that there are some that we've experienced over the past 11 months that we do want to keep. We've learned a lot, we've developed a lot, we've developed new ways of thinking, of working, and we want to make sure that whatever this new normal looks like, whenever we get to it, that we shape it intentionally and we keep the things that we want to keep, particularly as a college community. So this was a kind of a last minute add onto the professional development offerings today. So that's why you get to see me again, because I didn't feel good asking someone at the last minute to try to facilitate this conversation. So I apologize if you've had your fill of Jeff Aird non-NASA voice, but you'll get one more hour of it and then we'll be done. And apparently Jason Pickavant said in his pathway session that I get to sing at convocation. So we'll see how that goes. But I did ask Sean Crossland and Justice Marath here as staff and faculty association presidents to help facilitate and host this event with us. And it will be interactive. So we learned a lot because we did this at the last session. So I think there's some processes that we kind of developed organically that we'll keep working on. So down on the bottom of your screen, you have a little reaction button. And on that button, you'll see, if you click on that, there's a button there that says you can raise your hand. So if you raise your hand, it puts you up at the top of my screen and I can see you and I can call on you to speak. And then when you're done, you can click lower hand and it moves it back down. So when you feel ready and willing, we'd love to hear from folks, and that will be the general process. Now, at any point, please go ahead and start chatting up whatever you'd like to chat about. Please keep it related to, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want to chat about would be great. It's Friday afternoon, end of a long day. Should be good. But the goal of what we're doing, right, for the next hour is going to be on answering this basic question. When we reach the end of this pandemic, and it will end one day, what changes have you or the college made that you want to keep? What have we changed because we had to, but we'll keep because we want to, right? So I've framed out the conversation with 4 basic categories, and they all overlap and interweave, and we know they will, and that's okay. And what we're trying to do is gather this feedback up, and then Sean and Justice and I and others will write up some recommendation that says, okay, here's the things we've learned and the things we want to keep. Now, some of that will be easier than others, but we want to be intentional and thoughtful about it. So the 4 categories are technology, right? So what technologies, both hard and soft technologies, what processes, what platforms have we adopted, and which ones would you like to keep? People, right? So people and culture issues. So management, performance, supervision, accommodations, work conditions, those type of issues. What have we had to adjust and how would we like to keep? Teaching and learning, right? So whether that's your own learning or as an instructor, how you teach. So pedagogy, curriculum, development, modality, those type of questions. And then we have facilities, right? So the physical environment, the buildings, the working areas, the office spaces, things that we've learned that we want to make sure we keep. So those will be the basic 4 areas. We're going to blend and jump around on them. If it slows down, I might pick one out and focus on it specifically. We started last time and we'll start again on technologies. And I'm going to ask Sean if he wouldn't mind kicking us off about some technology things from his perspective to kind of prime the pump a little bit there, and then we'll open it up and you can just open up your hands or throw things in the chat and we'll catch them as we go. So Sean, do you want to start us off?
Sure thing. Thanks, Jeff. And I actually, a couple that kind of came up in the last session that we didn't get to I'm going to use to prime here.
Right.
One we talked a little bit about in terms of process and digital signatures and thinking about like not walking the piece of paper across the campus or to the other campus to get it signed. And I think, yeah, I already see that one there. But the one that we didn't get to that I'd like to kind of hold up to start is we've had more conversations about wellness as a college in the last year, I think, than the last 9 previous years since I've been here, and acknowledging that, this public health crisis has impacted all of us differently, but, we are experiencing a collective trauma. And I've appreciated that. And I was thinking at the very end of the last session, I was thinking about the work that the employee wellness program has done to pivot into virtual accommodations and things like that. So that's my kind of prime for this round.
Right. So what you want to keep is a focus on wellness.
Yep.
Interesting. Do you have any? So you say we were talking about it more. In what ways and how is it working? Are there specific things you'd like us to keep?
Yeah, I mean, I think even just the sort of messaging that I've seen, from employee wellness, but in the supervisor training, they launched at the end of last year this big wellness program to sort of think through. And in turn, I've felt an obligation and a responsibility to my team to think about that differently, and knowing that Zoom meetings haven't meant less meetings, right? In some ways, it's like now we don't even have the excuse of walking from building to building. It's like 12:01 hits and the next meeting starts, whether we're in it or not. And like, so tiny thing that we end meetings 5 minutes before the end of the hour, stuff like that, right? Like tiny things like that. But then also the big picture, like how are we prioritizing the mental and physical well-being of our employees across the board, whether it's no matter where they are. And I think that there's lots more opportunity for those conversations, but I definitely think that I've felt more, both more empowered as a supervisor and more supported to emphasize that.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. Justice, do you want to jump in at all on this before we open it up from a faculty perspective?
I don't really have much to add, just because in our last session it was like we had such a great, robust conversation. I say we just
Awesome.
let her rip, if you will.
Let her rip.
The one thing I will say is I do really like my new office mates, and that's my 2 dogs who I get to hang out with all the time.
Hang on, remind me their names again.
Otis and Diogenes. So it's a mouthful.
Diogenes.
Yeah.
Like it. Okay, well, this is a very chatty group. I don't see any hands up yet, but a lot of chat going on. So let me see if I can find a friend and I'll make them talk. Brandy, you're in there. We did get a hand. Annette. Okay, great. Annette, do you want to share a little bit of your thinking?
Well, I just want to say that this is the first year I have not gotten a cold or the flu. So that's a positive.
We want to keep that.
I really enjoy working from home.
Okay.
I love using the technology. I love teaching virtually for faculty, because I actually support faculty. So getting to teach them how to use technology like Zoom, WebEx, and stuff like that has been a lot of fun for me. It was a challenge at first, but now I actually enjoy it. Because at first I thought, how the heck am I going to teach somebody to use the technology when I can't show them on the screen?
Yep.
So it's been a challenge, but I figured it out, and actually it's gotten a lot easier for me.
Was there anything specific in figuring that out that you want to keep? Was there a support or a technology or something that you used?
Actually, it's just a process. What I basically do is I started with the telephone, like I would call them and I said, okay, this is what you need to do to download either Zoom or WebEx. And I walk them through that process. And then I will tell them, okay, so now you're going to send me a meeting link, and I will walk them through the process of how to send a meeting link. Once I get their meeting link, I would connect, and then I would start teaching them how they would teach, and I would pretend to be the student. So it gives them the practice, and it makes them feel more comfortable using it. So it's more of a process other than the technology. But I would say that as long as the technology is simple to use, it seems to work better. WebEx was a challenge. Zoom seems to be a lot easier.
Great, thank you. You know, one little insight that I'm picking up from you there, Annette, and tell me if this doesn't resonate with you, is like, because we were all forced to adopt new technologies at the same time, it also forced us to talk about things in a different way, right? You picked up the phone and had to talk to the student and say, okay, I'm going to send you a link. There's a, where you wouldn't have been having that level, or maybe, I mean, that's not quite the right word, but like kind of the intimacy of that communication, right? Because it's like, it's not a kind of communication you do before, and now you're doing it. It's building a relationship there that wasn't there before. Is that a fair way to think about that?
Yeah, it would be a fair way of saying it. It actually forced me to think about how I would tell them to find something, where before, if somebody came in with their computer, I would just point to the screen and say, well, just click this, do that, do that. Or sometimes, I would just go so fast, trying to get them through the thing, where now I have to be very careful exactly what I say and be very descriptive, and actually slow down.
Right.
So that was one thing that I've learned.
Awesome. Thank you, Annette. I appreciate that. Sean, what are we seeing in the chats? Anything worth mentioning?
Yeah, a couple pretty interesting ones. And one I want to hold up that Nicholas mentioned about the health and counseling fees being waived for
Oh,
and wondering if that was viable. And I actually, wonder personally from a retention perspective, right? If the cost of continuing to keep that free wouldn't be pretty rapidly absorbed, and not to put a ROI on our students' emotional well-being, but if
there is a reality of cost.
yeah, and it would be interesting to really get into the details of those numbers, right? It seems like that could really quickly be a justifiable expense. And Anna had a really good way of saying this emphasis of the whole person, and I thought that was a good way, especially our students, but the kind of whole person piece. Brandy pointed out that WebEx is awful, and we're glad it's going away.
All right. Okay, great. Clint, looks like Clint's got his hand up. Clint, you want to chime in for us?
Yeah, sure. I posted, because I've been thinking a lot about this, in the Student Writing and Reading Center, we've had online tutoring for a long time. And the usage has, been decent, but nothing, of course, anything like we've had during this time, because mostly we were online, except for some very controlled sessions in person. And now we're expanding that a little bit more into the spring at South City and Jordan campus too, as long with Redwood. But one thing that I've noticed is that students are taking advantage of these online modalities more now, and taking advantage of the system that we had in place that was, fortunately, we had in place.
Right.
To go into panic mode in March, because we could just immediately switch on to doing online tutoring. It took a while for students to get that, so we developed some materials for them. But one thing that I noticed is that I'm thinking is that I'm hoping that the carryover is that students will maintain this online usage as well as in-person work with us, so that we can have this nice hybrid blend. That students might think of something at 1 o'clock in the morning when no one's available, and then suddenly that can become much more of an experience when, say, the next morning they can work with somebody either in person or online. And I think this could carry over to stuff like in Canvas, right? I noticed in the fall there was a lot more work with students in Canvas in class, right, than there would have been if it were a completely in-person class. And that was that's interesting to me too. So I think the promise of the future of these technologies, right, has been there, but I don't necessarily know if students or teachers have been taking advantage of that. So
That's right.
I'm hopeful that will continue on into the future.
Yeah, I think that's great, Clint. And as much as we can shape it, would be the right approach, right? So no one's researched hybrid organizations post-COVID, right? There's a lot of research on hybrid organizations pre-COVID, and a lot of it is not real encouraging. but I think that's partly because there was this huge obstacle to adoption, and we kind of forced ourselves through that adoption. And so maybe it's viable now, right? Maybe an online platform for tutoring, which, as I think I heard you say, didn't really get used before, is going to keep getting used. And maybe there's a way for us to think about that more intentionally now. Awesome. All right, you're going to have to help me with your name. I apologize. I don't want to try because I'll get it wrong, but please help me pronounce it correct.
You're talking to me?
Yes.
Okay, it's Piotr. It's like Polish version of Peter, so I'm good with Peter.
Piotr. All right.
Piotr. Yeah.
It's important. It's important we get it right. You're welcome, and I appreciate you being here, and your name's important to me. So thank you for helping me get that right.
Thank you. You're welcome. Well, I'm good with Peter. Usually students try to, and they butcher it. So I just say, just call me Peter. I'm good. Anyway, to the point. Thank you for letting me speak. So I think that what was caused by COVID, in a sense, which was the necessity to combine a live lecture, because I was teaching face-to-face, with Zoom connection or earlier WebEx connection. I'm also happy it's going away, which is a combination of those two modalities in one, pretty much. Is something that many students really appreciated. The ability of joining class virtually, even if it's a face-to-face class, whenever it was not feasible to come in person. And then also with that, the ability of recording all the meetings and for them later to be able to view them and all of that. I think this kind of technology, this kind of endeavor is definitely something to keep, because how many times we see students that have problem getting to class sometimes, or to be there on time or something like that because of location problems. Keep that and give them an option to join virtually, obviously not making it an excuse, but with proper explanation of the purpose of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is definitely something that I would stay with.
Yeah. Yep. I think there's a lot there, and I'd love to hear other faculty experiences as well. We talked a little bit about this in the last hour, but I want to get it up and learn more about this, right? So because I've heard mixed reviews, and this idea of a hybrid class where you have half your students online or some proportion online and some present, and trying to mix days or be asynchronous with a screen and people in front of you. And it's been hard, I've been told, to do that well. I've tried to run my own meetings that way, and it gets really hard. Now, why is it hard? And are there ways to fix it? Or maybe it was easy, and maybe people have some good ideas about how to keep it easy. So if you're a faculty member or a staff member who's tried to plan meetings or something along those ways, like, is that something you'd want to keep? This idea that we do half and half or some portion in this way. But that's not exactly what you said, Piotr. You said keep it an option, right? So if a student can't make it, you can give them a stream to the class, right? So they can watch.
Yeah. Well, I actually like to record all of my videos because I like to learn from myself pretty much, and how to improve in the future by watching myself teaching. This is also cool for me, but I noticed that many students really like that option, that they had that option and that they were able to use it whenever it was feasible. And, the majority of them were not overusing it, obviously, which was great. Mm-hmm. But there were some that simply couldn't make it to class, but really wanted to have a face-to-face experience, even though they weren't able to come physically. And this connection, this option was enough for them to still make it better than an online class or anything like that. Yep. Or a typical broadcast class, even, whatever typical broadcast is, of course.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have just a quick comment, if I can, about
Please.
Technology in general.
Yep.
My proposal is pretty much to create a group of people, not too large, of course, but create a group of people with a budget that would research and bring some of the newest technologies and explore with faculty what can be done with these technologies as used in the classroom.
So like a technology exploration group that you're proposing particularly for faculty, but there may be staff applications as well.
Of course. Yeah, I'm faculty, so I think faculty. Sorry for that.
No need to apologize.
Inclusive, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Something like that, because in today's world, there are so many new things that are showing up, and I think many of them can be used if properly adjusted to the purpose of education. And it's impossible for faculty, for example, or for staff to explore them on their own. It's much better if we would have a unit like that in our institution for that purpose, pretty much, and they would cooperate with faculty and staff to come try things or present to them, this is what we have, this is what we think you might be able to do with it. What do you think? And then we can come up with other ideas and specific to our disciplines or something like that, and if they have good enough budget, they can bring, a sample of that technology, like a VR unit or whatever it is.
Ah, I like it. Okay. I could see a partnership coming between faculty development and IT, and maybe there's a technology or something committee on faculty senate. I don't remember that maybe we could have them be part of that as well.
Yeah, we have an e-learning. I can't remember the acronym exactly, but yeah, they could be the faculty that kind of lead that charge for sure.
Great. Let's explore that and see if that's something we want to keep. That's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah, it's chaired by Claire Peterson currently.
Awesome. Okay. No other current hands up at the moment. So Sean, that means I'm back to you on chat updates.
Chat updates. I think I want to go back to one that Mikkel mentioned earlier. That's a little bit of a challenge, but I think important. And that kind of idea of interpersonal. I was trying to get all the way back up here to find it, but the idea of like interpersonal kind of casual connections, right? I personally have not found the way to keep that like, hey, like, how you been? What's new, right? Like, and it's like, I don't want to schedule a 20-minute Zoom with somebody, right? To be like, hello, how have you, just, so maybe the kind of putting that question back out to the group of if there are other ways that people have found that they'd be willing to share around, that kind of interpersonal piece in relationship building.
What have you done on your teams and in your departments to keep connections, interpersonal connections moving? Is there anything there we want to keep, right? Okay, I see a hand with Annette.
I'm not sure this is easy to implement or anything like that. I just simply, because I support the School of Applied Technology and Technical Specialties, I like to keep in contact with the faculty, and usually I see them every day. So basically what I do is I just call through Jabber. I call them and say, hi, how you doing? Are you doing okay? Is there anything I could do? And we just end up having like a 10-minute, 20-minute chat, just seeing how they're doing. And 9 times out of 10, they'll have a question that they've been meaning to ask me. And then I end up solving their problem that way. But usually it just takes a little bit of time out of my day. So I usually do it like on a Monday or a Tuesday or something like that. And I will just call them and see how they're doing.
That's great, right? So a practice of regular check-in, which maybe before we just did naturally as we walk down the hall. And now it's a little more formalized, maybe in your to-do list that says, I need to call so-and-so today, right? Yeah, I like it. Jill, please go ahead.
One of the things we did, we've done a couple different times, is just had an informal Zoom. It was like a lunch, let's everybody talk. And we talked about what we were going to do for Christmas vacation and various different things. And it wasn't work related at all. It was just, how's everybody doing in their life? And we did that with Sarah and all the group that reports to her. And I found that very effective in my own team. We do informal WebEx meetings and just, hey, how are things going? How can we help? How can we support you? So even just informal chats, not about work, is okay.
That's right. So that's something you'd want to keep, right? So
Absolutely.
whether it's on Zoom or in person, having a space to have informal relationship building and just connecting with your colleagues is important.
I think we've had more chance to connect during COVID than we did when we were all working in person.
That goes
It
back
was
to
really
Sean's comment
hard
about
for us
wellness, right? That's
to
focus on
break away from what we were doing to just have an informal get together. And so we've had better communication during COVID, I feel, with my small team.
Great, thank you. I think I looked at the chat long enough to see that Brandy wanted to talk about Teams.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. I figured since you called me out earlier too, I probably should,
Try to get you
should
out
chime
eventually,
in,
right? Yes.
right? So I will preface by saying I am team Teams all the way. Like I really love the functionality of Teams, and I like how it organizes information for those of us who are at the college. In my new role within the contact center, I am finding a pain point when it comes to our students being able to access us as faculty and staff. Our students, and especially if we're transferring students interdepartmentally, don't have the ability to transfer into Teams. And so Jabber is linked to our phone numbers, and that's how people are communicating with us. And I know, I mean, even just from my personal experience, I know that there are complete teams who are not using Jabber at all, which means they're not accessible through their phone numbers very well, if at all. And so as students are needing them, or community members or even other staff members who may not be utilizing Teams don't have access to them. I know it sucks having multiple things to be logged into and try to keep track of, but just being mindful that currently Jabber is connected to our phone systems and how people in the outside world can connect with us.
I wonder how many people of the 100 we have on the line know what Jabber is. So this is the college-wide chat function that is also tied to your office phone. Some departments immediately required it as we moved off campus. Others required it before. Others have not adopted it. There hasn't been a standardized approach for it across the whole campus. But what I'm hearing you say, Brandy, is like maybe we should think about that. And you would prefer that it be Teams, not Jabber, if I'm hearing you.
I mean, if we could integrate our phones with Teams and just have all of our documents, all of our memberships, all of our video phone, like if we could have one space where all of that lives, I think that would be ideal for all of us. But currently our phones don't talk to Teams at all. But our students need to be able to talk with us. That's one thing we're seeing with students too, is that with all our virtual services and not being able to catch people on campus, they want to talk to someone, and not having access to be able to do that or transfer during business hours has been kind of hard. And thank you for those of you that are using Jabber. That's awesome. Just maybe looking at expanding that a little bit more, or even with faculty, putting in their office hours when they might be accessible via phone in their office, virtually or otherwise, and they're logged into Jabber during office hours or something like that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Thanks, Brandy. Appreciate it. Okay, so this also leads into an area that we probably need to talk about, and this is the work hours and flexibility, right? So I think this probably applies more on the staff side, right? But probably in some ways for faculty as well. Let me just open it up, right? How has that happened for you? And is there any changes that have happened that you want to make sure we keep in the working hours, the flexibility, the work from home, those type of things? So anyone have an experience that they want to share and say, I want to make sure we keep this?
I'll jump in, Jeff, because I've got one while people think.
Sure.
I'm thinking about the re-emphasis of childcare, right? And when all the schools closed down, all of a sudden it was like understood and expected that supervisors figure out how, like how we support with kids at home. I don't personally have kids, but I think that was a great thing, and I think definitely something that we should figure out how that continues, right? That we don't just take for granted that, kids are sick and kids need to, go to different things and get different places. And so I think I was really proud of the way the college responded, especially in the kind of peak of of that, that was a clear messaging to supervisors that we would figure out how to work with our teams to support their children, especially while they were doing schooling from home. So that's one, I think, on top of just telecommuting, but even acknowledging, right? Like if you're, yes, you can turn your computer on, and if you have 3 little ones, like you can't always balance that meeting, right? And I've seen Dr. Kokomont facilitate a staff meeting with two of her little ones climbing on her, and she just didn't miss a beat. But I can't, my dog distracts me. Like I can't imagine how much energy that takes. So I think overall, proud of the college for that childcare component.
I'd like to also add actually something that Sean brought up in the previous session about telecommuting as a way to help with our air pollution issue and things like that, right? To minimize commuting, to maybe minimize heating of buildings and things like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's right.
Can I throw something, Jeff? Can I say something?
Of course, Marianne, go please.
Hi there. I don't know how, I think it'd be good to survey students, because I've had quite a few contacts from students who've told me, and they're not even people in my division, who said they're having a hard time. They've had a hard time since last March reaching people. So I would be interested in the student experience with our remote working to see if that's just not widespread or if it is. I can't tell you. I can just say that I've had a number of contacts about that.
Yeah. So we've done 2 COVID surveys with students. I don't have them here with me, but we're happy to share them out if you want to see what the student a little bit. I mean, they were short. We obviously didn't ask a lot of questions, but we did get some good responses on modality preferences and experience and different things. And I'm happy to share those out. We got to keep the student experience. It's not that the college doesn't exist for our experience. It exists for students. So anything we keep from COVID, we need to keep the student in mind. Right. Yeah. Good. I appreciate that. Thank you, Marianne. Other thoughts on flexibility, work from home, anything specific that if the college was to adopt a policy, let's say on working from home, what would you look for in that policy? What would you want to see in that space?
Mojde just brought up lots of comments in here about the kind of blended, right? Some stuff can't be done from home. Some people are more productive in the office. Mojde brought up the office space conversation, which came up in the last one. And Bob Askerland was talking about, that sometimes we're heating an entire building for one person to be in the office and things like that. So, and Nick mentioned the back and forth, the campuses, right? That hopefully less of that needs to happen. And then, yeah, a lot of comments about the back and forth here. Good combination of telecommuting and office work. So, because sometimes stuff has to be done, right, in person.
Right. Yep. Yeah, there are some things that we can't become fully from home. Now, the working hours is another one too, right? So these are 2 related issues for the staff, particularly, where it's where do you work and when do you work, right? So I know because of the schooling of children and other items that we've become more flexible, at least hopefully some of us have become more flexible. And when we look for people to be working. Now, some departments can't because they have open time and that's what it is. But I'd love to hear thoughts about changing the college's official business hours, right? So we have official business hours. It's kind of, I guess it's expected, right? These are the hours in which you're expected to work. Do we need to get rid of that? Is that something we should just throw out and keep this idea that you work when you need to work? And some departments can be more specific as they need to be. Love to get people's thoughts on this one.
One thing, and Anne brought this up in the chat, we have to be mindful of is that work-life balance. It's so easy to lose those boundaries when you're working from home because it all just gets, smushed together. So just
right. So the official hours actually work as a boundary for people. They say, don't work more than that, right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's fair. Brandy, go ahead.
I think you brought up a good point earlier about it being about the students. Like, while it might be easier for us to work at 6:30, 5 o'clock, whatever in the morning and get emails done, that's not necessarily when our students are awake and being active. And so being mindful, I think some of that needs to be in the policy of like having, you know, we have official work hours, but maybe give a range of when you should be doing work. And that if you're trying to contact students and messaging students, it shouldn't be too early or even too late, based off of the nature of your job, obviously.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, we have a few other new hands in the air. I appreciate it. We'll start with Allison.
So, hi, everybody. This is, I don't want to derail the conversation, but with the whole idea of telecommuting and not as many people on campus, I'd be interested to hear from anyone on best ways to communicate. So we're in front of screens all day and we have, SLCC today, but no one's on campus, or fewer are on campus to see our digital screens or posters or things that we announce, we use traditionally to announce things happening at the campuses. So I just would like to know what are good ways to communicate when we are all in various places, and some from home and some on campus. Any ideas on that are certainly welcome.
Awesome. Yeah, let's open it up. We had a good conversation on this last hour, which I have all the notes for, and I will share with you, Allison.
Thank you.
But I'm not going to share now because I want to see where it goes. So what do people think have worked well communicating during COVID, right? What's been really good, been helpful, and where maybe some gaps are and things that we'd like to, maybe some ideas of how to fill those. So Annette, are you raising your hand to respond to this question, or do you have a new?
No, I want to respond to Allison.
Okay, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the SLCC today, I think that's that newsletter, has been very helpful for me. I get a lot of my information from there. I also check the website very often. It would be helpful to have something on the front page for either staff or faculty, like a small little banner or something, not to detract from the marketing for the students, but
Right.
maybe something that'll tell us like, hey, here's some news. That's helpful. Email, I would probably totally ignore that, except for the newsletter. That's about the only thing. If you're trying to direct market me through email, most of the time, honestly, it just goes to my junk mail.
Has anything changed in the last 11 months, or have you been forced to change the communication process that you're like, that works, keep that? There may not be, you can say no, but has anything been different?
Well, I think in our department, because our director had us use Jabber, we use Jabber quite frequently. So it's easy for me to, type in a person's name, chat with them, or call them, whatever their preference is. That's how I keep in touch with a lot of people there. So we do it a lot that way. We also do have specific meetings that we have set up where we will, pop in through a Zoom meeting or something like that there and keep in contact that way, where information is disseminated to us there. So those are the options that we've been using, and I actually do like them because it gives me the flexibility whether or not I can attend a meeting, because sometimes I can't attend a meeting because I'm on the phone with a faculty member trying to walk them through something. So it does
where you
give
need
a
to
lot
be.
of flexibility.
So, yeah, that's great. Lots of things in the chat, Allison. Oh, please, Mondi, please go ahead.
This is Mondi. Hi. To follow up with Annette, because me and Annette working together at e-learning, and what we've been connected us, it was mostly like a stand-up meeting. We have 2 times a stand-up meeting that is like 30 minutes. We chat, and we sometimes just talk about food, just for our mental health, like office chat. And at the same time, I have different groups, like to just small groups that catch up with the work. And it was short, we're not gonna make it long. And we actually resolve lots of our problems and issues through collaboration through these teams, that I make it happen like let's collaborate, let's talk about it, come up with some good solution. And it's been working very well. And recently what I did, I started adding the LinkedIn Learning once a month. So we can just, everybody pick up the favorite subjects and we gonna discuss as just a PD. So because I think there's a lack of learning and motivational learning here. And I thought that's the best tool to use while we have it. And because before in the office, we had that TED Talk. We picked a TED Talk subject and we get together, but we're gonna add the LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah,
So, and the Jabber has been great. We use Jabber a lot to just chat, just a small questions.
Yep.
And yeah, we just been very communicating at e-learning pretty well with each other, and it's been effective.
Cool. Thanks, Mondi. I appreciate it. And we did pick up LinkedIn Learning as part of our pandemic response. It probably would have happened anyway, but we expedited it and made it done quicker because we couldn't do any in-person training. And so that's something that we are planning to keep moving forward. Nick, I see your hands up. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's not monolithic. There's a lot in the chat about communicating and whether it's Jabber or text or email or whatever. And I certainly agree that a large percentage of especially adjunct faculty, if it's an email, it never gets opened. But I'd also point out that in my experience, what worked 8 months ago isn't the same anymore.
Yeah.
Communication and reaching out to faculty and staff and students and all y'all that have kids at home and pets, yes, but it isn't the same as it was in July or September or December. So for me, I've noticed that, and I didn't do this consciously, but I've noticed it now, I tend to sort of find interesting articles at the Chronicle or wherever it might be about how faculty or staff cope with different aspects of coronavirus, and I send those out, and I notice that I'm getting more response back than I used to. Thanks for sharing that. This was really interesting. Oh, good idea for class discussion. So I think everybody's channels of communication are evolving and changing. And as we come back more and more face-to-face, depending who all gets a shot and when and how many shots and on and on and on,
Yeah.
how many variants of COVID-19 we see, I think it'll evolve again. But I just feel like we should remember that it's not one thing. It's still changing
That's right.
all the time.
That's why we get to shape our new normal, right? We've learned
Well,
things because
there
of
is
this.
there is no normal. There is no
Right.
normal. Yeah.
Right. That's fair, right? Right. I get it. Awesome. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. Okay. Lots of great conversation going. Allison, I hope you got a fair amount in the chat there for you.
No, that was very helpful. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Let me just verify here, Sean, because I wasn't watching it. People talk about the supervisor session. I know we got a lot of talk on that last time.
Yep,
Something we
supervisor
wanted to-
session, president's forums, both in the chat again. And Bob's got a really good point about digital communication and norming and kind of enforcing that, you know, for adjunct faculty. But really, I would say even broadly, you know, better use of Outlook. What Bob's comment in here about acceptable use, in addition to, you know, where we're sending emails to adjunct faculty, like norming at this point Outlook calendars, right? I was thinking about that and how that fits, and it's hard to you know, to connect with people, even more so now when you can't drop by the office if you're trying to find a window for a Zoom meeting.
I'm curious. I mean, so on Thursday, I guess it was Thursday, was it yesterday? I don't know. This week, I sent out a meeting request to several thousand people as a way to get the link to the event today on people's calendar. I was new. We'd never done that before. I don't know how it worked or not, but well, 106 of you are here. You may have gotten the link in some other way, of course, but we're trying a new way to communicate. So yeah, I like it. But that requires people using the Outlook calendar, right? Because I sent it through the Outlook system.
Yeah, one issue with WebEx, which we're getting rid of, is you can only send an Outlook invite to 1,000 people or less. And so for trying to send out an invite to all faculty, I wasn't able to do that with WebEx. So
don't
another
keep
good reason
WebEx.
why we're done with it. Yeah.
Bill's already on that one. I like it. Okay, we have about 10 minutes left. I'd like to hear a little bit from our faculty and others about learning, right? So how have you changed your teaching approaches, your curriculum? What have you done for yourself to be learning and developing? Let me kind of just open it up, right? You had to adjust on the fly, Herculean, heroic effort by our faculty. Last session, we heard from a faculty member who'd never taught online, and all of a sudden, all of his classes are online. And he talked a lot about how much he's learned and grown from that. And he's the most stressed he's ever been. Thus, back to the conversation of wellness. But I'd love to hear from some faculty members about things you'd like to keep from that experience about teaching. What have you learned from teaching that we should keep?
I actually, if I can interject, so in the last session, I talked about how much I like the new broadcast format for classes, but very early in the chat, Spencer Bartholomew mentioned he hated it and wants it gone. Spencer, would you mind sharing that? I'd love to hear your experience with it.
I don't know how much of this is unique to, say, people in the math department or maybe just simply to me. I find that retention and effectiveness of education through broadcast is much lower. How well students hang on to materials, even how often they're coming to class, has plummeted. I get to the end of the semester and I have about 30% of what I started with these days, regularly.
Right.
And I have found that I never had a single semester before the pandemic that was even close to that bad.
Interesting, right? So maybe it's just getting the right fit for the right faculty member. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Justice, it's like something that you naturally really enjoy. And for Spencer, it's not the right fit. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud.
It might be content dependent, right?
Yep.
What course we're talking about. My first preference is face-to-face, but it's I like it as an alternative. But yeah, it may just be the content. It may not work for certain areas like math, maybe.
Yeah.
And Renee Mendenhall mentioned that she was going to open a dental hygiene clinic in her garage, so she could do some work from home earlier in the chat here. So,
well, let me talk to our risk department, okay? Before we do that, if you wouldn't mind. I like it. Other things. Any other faculty or staff member who's had an experience with the learning, curriculum, pedagogy, development work? Mojde, please go ahead.
Hi, I didn't know that you could see me. Well, I guess you see me. The one thing that I find out about broadcast, because I schedule 90 plus classes, and a lot of students reached out to me. We tried to do different modalities, but the ones for broadcast, sometimes it overlaps with other classes. And that is something that we really need to pay attention to, because the student said, well, I want to take these 3 classes, but because it's broadcast, it's just like being in the classroom. I cannot take the other 2 classes that is offered at the same time, and it's hybrid. So because of that, I reached out to the other students and I changed the modality to hybrid and the other one online. So all of the classes were, all of the students were able to fill up the class. So that's something to bear in mind too, because in one given semester, there are many classes are offered that are required that the student need for graduation. But because of scheduling, one is 10 a.m., one is overlap, but scheduling is an issue with it.
Yep. So there's some scheduling things to keep here, which we touched on fairly briefly in the last session, right? But how can we optimize scheduling work? I think we've done some of that this year, but probably more thinking to be done there. Jane, I think you're getting a lot of play in the chat about this idea of deadlines. I'm going to make you talk to us about it if you can, if you're willing to. What did you do?
Hi, how are you? My volume isn't very good on my computer, so I don't know if you can hear
You
me.
sound
but-
great.
Okay. Yeah, just for deadlines, I think, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, we were, me and several others were sort of like, just, you know, if you get it in, like, good for you. Like, let's do it. We can do it, you know? So I was really, really flexible with my deadlines. If they got it in, that was fine. And you know, after the pandemic, I think I'm going to keep a lot of that kind of principle because it made me really narrow it all down to what was really important and what wasn't. So, yeah.
Do you worry about that burning you out because it's hard to structure your class when things are coming in late?
Well, on the list of things that I worry about burning me out for, that might be on it, but it's not at the top.
Very diplomatic response, Jade. I appreciate that. Yeah, I guess I'm just pointing at the tension that deadlines are generally there to make a class manageable, right?
Well, and I guess maybe the next point I made was kind of an extension of it, because I think that, you know, I've always had a lot of like kind of strict late policies and things like that, because I needed, you know, some decent management things.
Yep.
But what I think happened with the pandemic teaching is that that it became more of this, like, as I was putting it, as kind of team effort. Like, we're all trying to figure this out. We don't really know how it's going to work. We're all kind of new to this, so it's going to be weird. And I think I just liked that more kind of collective environment, which meant that my policies, you know, are less, I don't need like that top-down kind of policy. I don't know, I'm just thinking it through.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And embedded in that very idea is like how we approach our students at a kind of a different level, more as in like this, like, we're all figuring it out level, right? I like it. Yeah.
I agree with what Allison just said too, though, like trying to find that balance.
Well, maybe, Allison, are you willing to share what you're saying?
You guys be quiet for a minute. I have some background noise.
No worries. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the risk.
Yeah, so what I said that Jane was referring to is that yeah, I've gotten a lot more flexible with my deadlines. And last semester, I think I tried to be like really flexible, and I had some students who then were behind the entire time. And that was hard on me structuring the class, as well as hard on them, because then they were behind and there was always something new. And so but I could tell it worked really well for other students. So I'm trying to find that balance now between being more flexible than I had been in the past, but also not having students, you know, just constantly be behind, because those ones who were constantly behind in the long run didn't do as well.
Yep. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. And tell whoever's making the noise, I appreciate it too. Thank you. All right, we're just about wrapping up. Any last words, Justice and Sean?
I was just putting in the chat, and I think to Allison's point and Jane's and more broadly, the like appreciating that it's kind of, this has forced us to interrogate the why of the work that we do in a lot of ways. And that's going to be the thing that I'm thinking about as I reflect on all of these comments, right?
Yep. Thank you. So we're going to be saving the chat here. So throw any last things you want in the chat to be saved in immortality. I'll be reviewing those, mining it, understanding it, and proposing some ideas about how to move forward. So throw that in there. Justice, I didn't mean to cut you off. If you wanted to share any last words.
I'm all good.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone. There's a wrap up, I think, in about 5 minutes. If you want to go kind of hear kind of some opportunities to continue the conversations, I would encourage you to go jump into that Zoom meeting, and otherwise enjoy your weekend. Thank you.